Welcome to Mo Recap. Today I'm recapping a zombie horror comedy about a virus that turns school children into monsters. This is Cooties from 2014. Let's begin. The story starts in a chicken processing plant in Illinois. Inside the factory, one of the chickens carrying a mysterious virus gets turned into nuggets. And worse, that batch of infected nuggets is delivered straight to the local elementary school cafeteria. That afternoon, an unlucky girl named Shelly happens to eat one of the contaminated nuggets. Meanwhile, our main character Clint makes his entrance. He's a failed writer from New York, a man who dreamed of becoming an author, but even his own mother hated his stories. Out of options, he returns to his hometown, Fort Chicken, and decides to take a substitute teaching job at his old elementary school just to survive. As soon as he arrives at the school gate, the security guard Rick approaches him trying to buy drugs. Clint looks confused, saying, "Dude, I'm a teacher, not a dealer." After finally getting rid of Rick, he discovers that his car has been blocked by the PE teacher, Wade. To make things worse, someone has written a curse word on his car window. Clint looks around and sees a bunch of wild kids running around, cursing, fighting, and screaming. The place looks less like a school and more like a small asylum. He walks into the office and meets the vice principal Sims, an old-fashioned man who firmly believes children should return to life before smartphones. Sims takes Clint's phone away, proudly declaring that this is a no-phone campus where both teachers and students must experience real childhood. When Sims tries to hand him a school map, Clint waves it off with a smile and says, "I used to go to school here." In the teacher's lounge, Clint meets a group of strange teachers, each one more unusual than the last. The teacher Rebecca wears a panic alarm button that automatically calls the police if anyone touches her. The PE teacher Wade acts like a total clown, while the sex education teacher Doug is painfully awkward in social situations. There's also a teacher named Tracy, who clearly hasn't found the courage to reveal her true self yet. Clint scans the room, finds no one interesting, and goes straight to talk to his longtime crush, Lucy. They exchange a few warm words, and just as the mood starts to feel romantic, Wade appears again. The three of them start talking about Clint's novel, a story about a man who buys a haunted boat. Wade immediately discourages him, saying, "Bro, someone already wrote that story." After Wade leaves, Lucy walks Clint to his classroom. On the way, Clint complains that Wade is a jerk. Lucy just smiles and says, "He's my boyfriend." Clint freezes on the spot, his face showing pure embarrassment. During class, a boy named Patriot and his friend Dink start mocking Shelly, whose face has broken out in strange blisters. Clint tries everything to make the class fun, but Patriot refuses to cooperate, even pulling out his phone in the middle of class. When Clint scolds him, the kid threatens, "If you touch me, I'll say you tried to hurt me." Clint is angry, but he forces himself to hold it in. After all, he realizes that Patriot is the same kid who wrote the curse word on his car that morning. Deciding to ignore these troublesome students, Clint asks the class to help him read his novel. That's when the quiet boy Calvin raises his hand, ready to read. But Patriot goes right back to bullying Shelly again. He reaches out to pull Shelly's hair, but when he pulls, he somehow tears off a chunk of her scalp along with it. Shelly snaps instantly, jumps onto Patriot, and bites him right in the face. Clint rushes forward to break up the fight, but ends up getting scratched by Shelly too. Roaring like a wild animal, Shelly runs out of the classroom. Clint hurriedly drags the bleeding Patriot to the nurse's office. Meanwhile, the security guard Rick finally gets his hands on his magic mushrooms and starts getting high inside his car. During recess, Clint returns to the teacher's lounge and tells Lucy about the terrifying scene that just happened. Elsewhere, Dink confronts Shelly, asking why she attacked Patriot, but Shelly lunges forward and bites him too. The playground descends into total chaos. Wade only notices that Lucy and Clint are laughing together near the basketball court, which makes him instantly jealous. Soon after, Rick realizes something is horribly wrong. He sees an infected child eating his own parent. Panicking, he calls Vice Principal Sims to report it. The problem is, Rick is still very high and can't even form a full sentence. Even so, Sims decides to check it out, but the moment he steps outside, a swarm of infected children jump on him and tear him apart. At the same time, the infected Patriot grows more and more aggressive, sneaking into the principal's office. Back in the teacher's lounge, Rebecca, terrified, presses her panic alarm button. Wade finally realizes how bad things are and leads everyone into the school building to take shelter, barely managing to lock the violent kids outside. Meanwhile, Patriot destroys everything inside the office, cutting all the phone lines. Minutes later, Sheriff Dave arrives at the school. But when he reaches out to calm one of the kids, the child bites his finger clean off. Screaming in pain, Dave jumps into his car and drives away, only to discover an infected kid hiding in the back seat. And seconds later, he too meets his end. Realizing the police are useless, Wade decides to take matters into his own hands. But just then, Patriot attacks them. Clint gets tackled by Patriot. Rebecca immediately pulls out her pepper spray and sprays it right into Patriot's face. Confused and furious, Patriot turns and attacks another teacher instead. The two struggle violently and end up trapped inside a closet. The rest of the teachers take the chance to flee, following Wade deeper into the building. In their panic, they run into young Calvin. The good news, he isn't infected yet, so they bring him along. Shelley keeps chasing them without stopping, forcing the group to lock themselves inside a classroom. But outside, Patriot has already opened the main gate, letting a flood of infected students swarm into the school. Now trapped, Calvin says, "They all have cooties." At first, no one believes him, until the sex education teacher Doug nods seriously and says, "He's right." Doug begins examining the blisters on Shelley, trying to understand how the virus works. But before long, Shelley escapes again. Wade suggests they make a run for the parking lot, but Clint shakes his head, insisting that they should head to the principal's office for help. The group splits into two opinions, tension rising. Then Lucy steps in to calm things down. "Stop fighting. We'll wait until 3 o'clock when parents come to pick up their kids, and then we'll signal for help from the roof." Everyone reluctantly agrees, but Lucy notices the scratch on Clint's arm. Wade immediately locks him inside a room for safety. Doug follows him in to examine him and soon discovers that Clint is infected too, but differently from the kids. He has a fever yet hasn't lost control or shown violent behavior. When the others ask how Doug knows that, he awkwardly raises his hand and says, "Because I tested his body fluids." The room goes dead silent for a moment. Time passes until it's finally 3 o'clock. The teachers take Calvin and climb up to the rooftop, hoping to signal for help from the parents below. But the mother down there doesn't notice anything wrong. She's too busy with her phone to notice what's happening around her. Meanwhile, her son Racer climbs into the car and starts biting his baby brother, then turns to attack his own mother too. Suddenly, teacher Tracy is grabbed by a child. But when they look closely, it turns out to be Tamara. And shockingly, Tamara isn't infected. Then the other kids spot them. Everyone runs as fast as they can and hides inside the gym. But their bad luck isn't over yet. The infected Dink catches Doug, and without hesitation, Wade grabs a fire extinguisher and smashes Dink's head until it bursts. Meanwhile, Lucy is comforting two surviving kids, telling them that as long as they haven't been bitten or scratched, they'll be fine. Then Tamara quietly says, "I was scratched." A long bloody mark on her back leaves Lucy speechless. She immediately takes Tamara to the bathroom to keep her separated. Doug enters full science mode, examining Dink's body to study the virus. Outside, Rick is still high in his car, completely unaware that the world has turned into hell. At the same time, Lucy confronts Wade. She demands to know why he's so hostile toward Clint. Wade finally confesses that he had been planning to propose to Lucy, but the moment he saw her smile at Clint, he completely lost his courage. Doug's examination soon reveals the truth. The virus makes the kids rot while staying alive. Their bodies still function, but they're no longer human. Lucy frowns and asks, "But Clint and Tamara were both scratched. Why haven't they changed?" Doug comes up with a shocking theory. The virus only infects children who haven't reached puberty yet. Just then, the lights suddenly go out and the whole building is thrown into darkness. It turns out that Patriot has cut off the power. Everyone panics and checks on Calvin, who is fast asleep. Because he is diabetic, he needs sugar immediately. While they're looking for candy, a horrible scratching sound comes from the wall. The doorknob slowly turns and everyone holds their breath. In the dim light, Lucy whispers to Wade, "I can't marry you." The door bursts open. Everyone screams, but it's only the janitor, Mr. Hitachi. Before they can relax, the infected kids break into the gym and chase Hitachi into the boiler room. Lucy is desperate to find sugar for Calvin, but Hitachi searches every pocket and finds none. Then the radio plays with an emergency broadcast. The entire town is under evacuation orders. No rescue is coming. As hope fades, Clint finally stands up. "We can't just sit here and die." He comes up with a bold plan to crawl through the air ducts, grab snacks from the vending machine for Calvin, and then reach the lounge to get Wade's truck keys. Since he's the smallest, he volunteers to go himself. Before leaving, he hands his backpack to Tracy, and Tamara gives him a cootie shot for good luck. Clint crawls into the duct while the teachers keep in contact through walkie-talkie. But instead of encouraging him, Wade keeps arguing with him the whole way. Lucy finally loses her patience, yells, "Both of you, shut up," and climbs into the duct to follow Clint. They finally reach the teacher's lounge. Clint desperately tries to get snacks from the vending machine, but the money keeps getting stuck, driving him crazy. Lucy manages to grab Wade's truck keys and tries calling for help, but all the phone lines are dead. Then a zombie kid on a bicycle bursts into the room. Clint hides behind the vending machine, but just then, the machine dings and starts working. The noise draws the zombie's attention. It screams and lunges at him, making such a commotion that Patriot hears it. He immediately charges toward them. Clint doesn't crawl back into the duct until he has grabbed a snack. Then he and Lucy begin to climb back, but Patriot is right behind them. Clint throws the snack toward the group's hiding spot and crawls down another route to distract the kids. They lock themselves inside another room, sealing the vent behind them and temporarily trapping the zombie children in the ducts. But that also sends the horde crawling toward the others. Clint quickly warns everyone through the radio. The teachers block the doors only to realize they're trapped too. Tracy begins to scream in panic. Meanwhile, Clint and Lucy are alone together. In the dim light, they finally open up to each other. Clint admits that the real reason he returned to Illinois was just to see Lucy again. He also confesses that he isn't a writer at all, just a first-grade teacher in New York. The mood turns soft and romantic. They finally kiss, then awkwardly pull apart. That's when Clint suddenly has an idea, a possible cure for the virus. Elsewhere, the other teachers talk about their dreams, like a final therapy session before the world ends. Soon after, Lucy calls the others on the radio. Wade answers. He finally apologizes, admitting he was jealous of Clint, the New York writer, while he was just a PE teacher. Clint responds sincerely, admitting his failures and wishing Wade and Lucy the best. Then he reveals his new plan to poison the infected kids by feeding them medicine-filled candy. The operation begins. Wade takes the lead, putting together makeshift weapons. The teachers finally gather their courage to fight back. But Clint doesn't realize that their radio signal has been picked up by Rick's truck radio and by Patriot's too. At last, everyone meets up in the hallway, ready to rush for Wade's truck. At first, things go smoothly, but soon the zombie kids come flooding in like a wave. Wade grabs a baseball launcher, firing non-stop while covering their escape. As they reach the exit, janitor Hitachi stays behind, sacrificing himself to hold off the horde. The others make it to the truck, but Wade stays to protect them. He tosses the keys to Clint. Lucy screams and refuses to leave, but Clint pulls her into the truck by force. Through tears, they watch as Wade is surrounded by the swarm. The truck roars to life, and they escape the nightmare. But the danger isn't over yet. Patriot has secretly climbed onto the roof. When the gas is nearly gone, Patriot suddenly reaches through the window to grab Clint. Clint slams the brakes, then floors it in reverse, crushing Patriot against a tree with a loud crack. The threat is finally over. They drive into the nearby town of Danville, only to find it completely empty. The tank is empty. They have no choice but to continue on foot. In a nearby electronics store, they see the news reporting the rapid spread of the outbreak across the country and how investigators traced its possible source, the infamous Fort Chicken Nugget factory. Realizing the nuggets might be contaminated, Doug gets excited and says, "If we can get one of those nuggets, I might be able to make a vaccine." But before he can even finish, they see a horde of zombie children running toward them. Panicking, the group rushes into the nearest building, which turns out to be a children's entertainment center. Inside, traces of a recent party are still visible, and infected chicken nuggets are scattered all over the floor. Doug doesn't hesitate. He grabs one immediately. But the moment he does, the zombie kids surround the building. Trapped and hopeless, they feel it's all over until Wade heroically shows up, charging in with the janitor, Mr. Hitachi. Wade shouts while spraying wildly, "Get in the van! I'll hold them off." The group runs out of the building, managing to lock the crazy kids inside. They finally reach the van, and the driver turns out to be Rick, still high on mushrooms and grinning, "Whoa, am I dreaming right now?" Clint notices Wade's spray gun and warns him water won't stop them. But Wade smirks. It's not water, it's gasoline. Once everyone gets out safely, he lights a match and boom, the entire building goes up in flames. The end. Thank you for watching.